Hello, girls, guys, or otherwise. This is Rich with your Christo-Pagan Sunday. We are going through the Witchcraft in the Bible series. This is part 8. This will be the last part of our Witchcraft in the Bible series. So I'm going to do something different than the other times because the other times I initially set forth what our position was here, what our purpose was here. And that included, not being overly critical of deity or trying not to be overly critical of deity and saving that for the last part. So saying that this is the last part, I'm not going to say that normal thing. I will say that I am reading from the New Catholic Answer Bible, this one here, the New American Bible Translation. So if you are following along, that is, and there are translation differences, that is the reasoning why. We are going to start on chapter 9, verses 20 and 21. But before we go any further than that, some of the particulars. If you're part of the 20 to 30% who are not yet subscribed to this channel and you would like to be subscribed, please hit that subscribe button right over there with that bell notification. You might receive notifications from YouTube and whatnot if they feel like it, basically. Let's see, what else? Hit that like button if you like these videos. If you dislike these videos, go ahead and hit that dislike button. It all appeases the algorithmic gods of YouTube. All hail the algorithmic gods of YouTube. Let's see. Go down into the comment section below with your questions, comments, queries. Anything that you agree or disagree with. If you're hitting that dislike button, please tell me why you dislike this video or this series. Like I said, at the end of the video, I will be giving my synopsis of Witchcraft in the Bible and my thoughts on deity and of these particular verses. So let's get on into this. So chapter 9, this is Book of Revelation, chapter 9, verses 20 and 21. This is if somebody is coming up to you and saying these verses as reasons against witchcraft. I am going to try to make this video a little bit short. I'm actually making this on Sunday. I'm having a little lower back issues with my sciatica and whatnot, so not really moving around too well today, but it afforded me the time to catch up on my studying and whatnot and respond to the 4 groups of verses. I think it's a total of 5 verses altogether, but 4 different groups of verses that we're going to be discussing. So, little blessings and, in times of trouble and whatnot. My back is going to be fine. I mean, this is stuff that I deal with all the time. I'll take a couple painkillers and or anti-inflammatories and, bounce back. It's just something that happens, and it happens here and there, depending on what I'm doing other than just normal day-to-day stuff. So let's go ahead and get on into this. Again, chapter 9, verses 20 and 21. And it reads, "The rest of the human race who were not killed by these plagues did not repent of the works of their hands, to give up the worship of demons and idols, made from gold, silver, bronze, stone, and wood, which cannot see or hear or walk. Nor did they repent of their murders, their magic potions, their unchastity, or their robberies." Okay, reading from my notes here. Again, I will point out that there is no reason given as to why witchcraft equals something bad. It's just literally not ever given as a reason. We aren't worshiping demons, as noted in verse 20, nor are we worshiping an idol. And I've addressed this in the past videos of whenever you're talking idol worship or having statuary available, or even iconography available, which is a way that the Orthodox Church gets around the whole worshiping idols. They don't have statuary, they have um, iconography, like I think I put it over there. The St. Nicholas uh, picture that I had. It's right over here. Hold on. Because it's something that I want to actually hang up. But, something like this is how they get around the whole idol worship thing in the Orthodox Church. So, yeah, we don't do idol worship. These are merely a focal point in order to give us something to talk to. Um, Whether it is a statue of Mary, or in this case, Sophia, or a statue of Christ. It is a way to have us have something there to talk to. We are not talking merely to a statue. We are talking beyond the statue, but this is a way of having something there in order to have us um, kind of, with our human minds, conceptualize that we are not just talking to thin air. We are talking to a being, a divine being that exists in some way, shape, or form. So we are not just merely talking to an idol. We are not talking to this idol as if it will come to life, or anything of that nature. We are talking to a divine being that exists beyond this. And I don't think that is lost on anybody that practices witchcraft. It may look weird to somebody who comes from a tradition that doesn't use any type of iconography or statuary or anything like that. It may look weird, may seem weird. However, it's a way for us to conceptualize that in our human minds, that there is something beyond, and that this being that we are talking to isn't just merely a figment of our imagination. It is a representation of something beyond. And I don't think that's lost to anybody in witchcraft. I think that is something that is said here in a frivolous manner, to kind of downplay the seriousness that somebody will take when praying to a deity that is represented by statuary. So, and I really like that it includes the idol worship in a Catholic answer Bible. You would think that they would have kind of wiped all that out, because I don't know if you've ever gone into a Catholic church, but there are saints everywhere. And they are to remind us of the life that we live, and, being upright, this and that, all kinds of things. Saints have different reasons and whatnot, but most of the time they are represented by statuary. Most of the statuary I have is of a Catholic nature. So yeah, I really have a problem with equating idol worship to faith. Yeah, I think anybody who has statuary knows this inherently on some level, that this thing is not going to come to life. It is just a mere representation, and this being is not confined to that. But anyway, a little more of a rant than I intended. I said, then they try to equate witchcraft, a practice which largely focuses on helping people, to murderers, the unchaste, and robbers. There is a lot to unpack here. Murderers take away life from someone else. Clearly wrong, as it infringes on an individual's right to life. Robbers take away a person's right to property, but the unchaste are hurting no one, as long as if it is between two consenting adults. If it's between two consenting adults, that has no place for anybody to have any input into how they live this life. Um, let's see, what else do I have written here? Let's see. People who practice witchcraft largely do live by a tenet of ethics to not harm another. There are a few exceptions, just like there are exceptions to those murders committed so many times within the time of the Old Testament. There are countless murders that we have already talked about, but they are also supposed to live by the "Thou shalt not murder" commandment. So, if there's an exception for that, there's an exception for everything else. So you can't just say all of these people are bad, because look at the reasoning behind why they did what they did, or was it actually hurting anybody? Was anybody's rights infringed? The inalienable rights that we all have: right to property, right to life, right to, you know, the freedom of speech and stuff like that. These, as Americans, I think we take a lot of advantage of those, or we don't really focus on those as being huge things, because these are things that we are born with, and other people take them very serious because they never get to have them. But I think that these certain rights, like the right to you having a life, to you living your life out, being infringed, is inherently bad. You having your property stolen and not having the right to that property is inherently bad. Being unchaste, whoring around, there's nothing inherently bad about that. I don't know what the deal is with this purity culture, but it needs to stop. Okay. And we see this time and time again in the Old Testament, where, murders aren't considered bad because they were done in the name of God. But at what point does a murder become bad? Where does it go from good to bad? Or where does it go from bad to good? I don't know. And if you can answer that, then answer why somebody, sleeping around is inherently bad. Because there's not really a reason if it's between, again, two consenting adults. Yes. Anyway, we're going to move on to chapter 18, verse 23. And it reads, "No light from a lamp will ever be seen in you again. No voices of bride and groom will ever be heard in you again. Because your merchants were the great ones of the world. All nations were led astray by your magic potion." Okay, this verse makes very little sense at all. This verse is making it seem that all the problems are caused by a magic potion. In examining this verse further, it seems more like this magic potion is a metaphor for greed, is what it seems like to me. And I can say, yes, okay, there are a lot of problems whenever you're talking about the greed that somebody has, the hoarding away of money, and keeping it from those who can greatly benefit from it. There's issues there that we should address. However, using magic potion, it's not a magic potion. Call it what it is. I understand that this is a metaphorical example, but call it what it is, because of your greed. That's my deciphering of this text. And the verse in and of itself does not sound very well put together. So I would kind of dismiss that one, because it seems like it's supposed to be a metaphor. And if we're talking witchcraft in metaphor, yes, I would give it more time. But seeing that we are talking about witchcraft as the practitioner, or the practice of, yeah, we're just going to move on. So, and we're going to move on to chapter 21, verse 8, which reads, "But as for cowards, the unfaithful, the depraved, murderers, the unchaste, sorcerers, idol worshippers, the deceivers of every sort, their lot is in the burning pool of fire and sulfur, which is the second death." Okay, here we see once again lumping together of different types of people being condemned. They are equating all of these groups with murderers. They're equating the not so bad to the terrible scum of the earth. This is very reminiscent of a propaganda technique to equate those who you don't approve of for whatever reason with something that is obviously wrong. And I have issues with this, and I'll address those in a minute. Because we're going to just hang a lantern on that, and we're going to go to chapter 22, verse 15, last chapter. Verse 15, and it reads, "Outside are the dogs, the sorcerers, the unchaste, the murderers, the idol worshippers, and all who love and practice deceit." Okay. We have some literal gatekeeping going on here of who is and who is not allowed in the kingdom with some of this similar propaganda technique. Okay, the thing with propaganda technique that we see here is, okay, you're unclean because you've slept around, you weren't chaste, you're worshiping idols, which, again, is not a thing. And you love to practice deceit, which I don't think anybody really does that out of the love of deceit. They may do it out of the love of money, the greed factor, jealousy factor, or something like that. But I don't think there are many people out there just saying, I love to deceive people. No, they're doing it because it's going to get them ahead in life in some way, shape, or form, or it gives them a good feeling to take revenge or something like that. We have more underlying problems than what is being given here, and we have to address that. Furthermore, we see the propaganda technique of, these people who, the dogs, which, we all know all dogs go to heaven. We see sorcerers, the unchaste, idol worshippers, and those who practice deceit, equated with murderers. So people who literally will murder somebody just because, we have them equated to people who are not causing any actual harm. Practicing deceit, it can be considered a harm. However, overall, most of the time is not. Of course, there's going to be situations where it is considered great harm, and we can address those on a case-to-case basis. However, what this propaganda technique is doing is it is equating the not so bad with the absolute terrible people. And we see this with a certain orange fellow who is going unnamed that says about mass caravans of Mexicans and that's probably filled with murderers and rapists coming to our southern border of the United States. And we see that same propaganda technique used here in the last book of the Bible, of the canonical Bible. We see this in the last chapter of the last book, within 6 verses of the last verse. We see that same thing happening. which means this is a propaganda technique that has happened for a long ass time. We saw this during the 1930s and 40s Germany. Saying certain words on YouTube kind of gets you demonetized, if this can ever be monetized. A monetized channel, once again. But we see this happening in modern history, and it's dating back to first century techniques. And I have problems here. Not only with this technique, I have problems with the book of Revelation to begin with. They are numerous, but I picked out 3 that really draw concern for me. 1. This all hinges on a version of one person, the vision of one person, and hence has become the standard bearer for end times predictions. You are putting a lot of stock into one person's psychic vision, because angelic communication is still a psychic practice. So he's communicating with an angel in a psychic practice, which you're not supposed to do. But then again, he's a prophet and whatnot, and a spokesman for this deity, so therefore apparently it's okay. But we're hinging all of these end times predictions that the apocalypticians, as I call them, will go out and they'll spout out, this is terrible. See what's happening? It's all going by the book. Johnny Cash actually has a really good music video called I think it's going by the book or something like that. Type in "by the book" Johnny Cash into YouTube. You can, yeah. It's a fantastic music video, but when are we purposely putting pegs into holes, saying that this correlates to this, when you can literally do that at several points in history? Okay. We're hinging all of this on one person's psychic vision, which you wouldn't do, usually. So number 2, and I'm going to address that here in a minute. Number 2, John, the supposed writer, is quite possibly an individual of Jewish origin, as given by many scholars, is related to in some way to Christ as a cousin. That's what it's commonly believed, but there are different theories and whatnot, but that's just one of them. But it says at the beginning of Revelation that it's written by John. Possibly an individual of Jewish origin. That's why I said he's probably of Jewish origin, because if he's related to Christ, then yes, he was Jewish. But moving on from that, many of the converts to early Christianity kept the Jewish laws, as well as following the teachings of Christ. A lot of archaeological evidence that's coming out now within the past, I'd say probably 30, 40 years, support that the Jewish community who were converts to Christianity, early Christianity, kept a lot of the practices of the Jewish culture, the keeping of the laws, keeping of the Seder dinners and whatnot, keeping of the Sabbath and whatnot. Many of the converts of Christianity, or to Christianity from Judaism, kept these traditions alive. So I think, this is from my notes, I think it is a likely supposition that there may be previous hang-ups that have been carried over and are evident in his writings. And by that I mean, if he was part of Judaism and a strict Orthodox Jewish individual, then coming to Christianity, he would have brought some of those ideas and feelings into his Christian practice. Similar to how Christo-Pagans bring a lot of Christian tradition and Christian ideals uh, and thoughts and teachings into their pagan practice or into their witchcraft. They, we um, often carry over those traditions and place them in our new tradition. The third part is I want to go back to Revelation chapter 1 verse 1, where it says that, and I'm going to read it first here. The revelation of Jesus Christ which God gave to him. Sorry, that is my text message there. I'll start again. The revelation of Jesus Christ which God gave to him to show his servants what must happen soon. He made it known by sending his angel to his servant John. Okay. The thing that gets me is chapter 1 verse 1 of Revelation says that this is supposed to happen soon. Now you can find a plethora of ideas of what soon means in this in this writing. Some people say, it's all relative because time is relative, and soon to an eternal being could be 3,000-4,000 years. We don't know. And, to a deity saying this to a mortal human being, one would think that, if you're saying soon, it should happen within that person's lifetime or within the next generation's lifetime. So, you will find several different interpretations of what soon means here. But when someone who is psychic says something of a similar nature, that this will happen in the future, or this can possibly happen soon in the future, it comes under intense scrutiny. So if something doesn't come true in a psychic reading that I give, somebody's going to come to me and they're going to be like, I thought you said this was going to happen sometime soon. It hasn't happened yet. What the hell? And I'm going to be like, well, soon is all relative. It could happen in a couple years. Yeah, no, they're not going to buy that. And one thing is, I don't usually tell future predictions or make future predictions with my psychic readings, my tarot readings and whatnot. I don't do it, usually. I always tell people, this is a possible future if you keep on the path that you're on. But I think as soon as we discuss this path and you make a conscious decision to go in a different direction, you have just changed the future itself. So, we put intense scrutiny on psychics as individuals that need to be telling the truth and this and that. And if they mess up once, then, they're condemned. However, we have an individual here that at the end of the 1st century or beginning of the 2nd century, somewhere around there, this book was written or compiled together. And we have this tendency as human beings to read this and say, well, it just hasn't happened yet. It's just soon according to God's standards. But God was relaying that to a human being, so you would think, with my rational human brain, you would think that this deity figure would say soon in the manner of, within your lifetime or the next generation's lifetime, something of that nature. So, now we get into what I think of witchcraft in the Bible. But first, grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your beverage, whatever it may be. Sit on back, relax, and we're going to get into that. So, my thing with witchcraft in the Bible is I think there is certainly a reason to do witchcraft. And I don't think that these verses in here that I have read through in the last 8 um, videos in the series, I don't think they hold up to why somebody should or should not practice witchcraft. I think that many of them come with hang-ups of certain cultures and certain um, ways of life that the Jewish community was trying to get away from, like those of Egypt or those of the Babylonians or whatnot. They were trying to set themselves apart, and in order to do that, you also had to set yourself apart by the cultural practices. I think that's one thing that's going on here. 2, we read about the Nephilim, and I did a video on that a couple months ago. And we read about the Nephilim, and we read about the angels that came down and shared witchcraft with the people of Earth. And I don't see a reason why witchcraft should not be practiced. It is something that was taught to us by these angels, and it's something that apparently was valid enough that this deity was pissed off enough about to say to these angels, no, you can't do this, and they did it anyway. Disobedience by angels. So I think witchcraft is valid, and until the deity of the Old Testament, at very least, gives a reasoning, a rationalized reasoning as to why we should not practice witchcraft, I'm going to continue, because I have not heard a rational excuse for giving down this type of commandment. Furthermore, addressing the deity themselves, or themselves, however, I am of the belief that there are multiple deities at play here. We do not have just one deity in the Old Testament. We do not have just one deity in the New Testament. If you look at the nature of the deity, for a being that is supposed to never change, supposedly, is never supposed to change, you have a very vengeful, jealous deity in the Old Testament. However, in the New Testament, you have somebody who is very loving and wants you to be part of their world, of their, to experience their love and experience their nature and kindness and whatnot. But we don't really take into account that, if this being is never changing, then why are they so vengeful in the Old Testament but loving in the New Testament? The only thing that comes to mind is that these are two different beings, which takes me to a Gnostic viewpoint. As you guys know, I've talked about this before, have been studying Gnosticism for just a little while now, enough to get my toes wet and get in trouble with it. But there is a Gnostic teaching that the Old Testament is the demiurge, the bad deity that was an offspring of Sophia, but has declared themselves to be the Almighty, has created the world and whatnot and the people within it in order to have that I am Almighty type of sense, not realizing or not paying attention to the fact that he had, and I say he lightly here, had an origin that he might not have known about, but has become aware of, and still continues this sense of, oh, these angels came down. Well, I can't have these individuals knowing that there's something beyond me. So he makes a commandment to condemn it. So there's certainly things that point to this deity being somebody that is very jealous, very vengeful of anybody that speaks out against them. However, in the New Testament, you have Christ come down, which uh, in the Gnostic version is the Sidducee of Sophia, who, they are a couple that are supposed to be coupled. And there's a whole thing with, Sophia sending part of herself down to earth, and being the snake that tries to bring enlightenment to Adam and Eve and all that stuff. And then you have Christ come down and have a redeeming factor for humanity, to see the wisdom that is beyond this Old Testament deity, the demiurge. So that to me is absolutely fascinating, and it's something that I've been studying a little bit more here and there about. And again, it's enough information to get me in trouble, but I find it fascinating, and I agree with many of the terms. Now, whenever it comes to Gnosticism and whatnot, I don't necessarily agree with all of this matter being bad. I mean, you see that in some uh, types of Gnosticism, where matter equal bad, and I don't think that's necessarily always true. And I think that part of a Gnostic type of path is for us to um, continually strive to get to this ultimate light, this ultimate power that is out there beyond um, beyond the demiurge, beyond Christ and Sophia, beyond them. It is just called the light. Some would call it the Drighten, which just gives birth to everything and it makes everything. And having something like that as a concept to me is that you are constantly striving to get closer and to learn more and to just envelop yourself in that way of being. So that is my overall opinion. Again, your opinions may vary. Go ahead and leave those in the comment section below, of witchcraft in the Bible and my views on the deity and deity relationship between the Old Testament and New Testament gods. The Jewish, the Israelites of the Old Testament talk of a vengeful God. Um, the newly formed Christian community of the New Testament tell of a just and righteous God that just loves you and wants you to be part of them. And that to me just signifies two different deities. Christ came to speak uh, on behalf of the light, of the Drighten, and the um Old Testament Jewish communities were talking about the demiurge, a Satan type of aspect that was trying to go against the Drighten. So anyway, and I think we need to also do a study of the Nag Hammadi library and whatnot, and delve into some of the Nag Hammadi texts. So I think that's one thing that we're going to do, but I do want to do a little sprinkling of some witchcraft in the Bible, as far as spellcraft that you can find in the Bible. So I think that's what's going to happen next week. I think we're going to go ahead and sprinkle in a few verses here and there. Maybe do an episode or a video on just some of those. Certainly, it's not going to be an exhaustive list. Maybe I'll make that a monthly thing where we pick out a verse and we come up with a spellcraft or something like that. Um, so maybe I'll do that for our Christo-Pagan Sundays. Let's see. Is next Sunday the last Sunday of the month? Are we scheduling this for the last Sunday of every month? I think we need to. Let me know in the comments below if that's something that you want. Otherwise, I think I might do another parable. Um, Either way is fine with me. Let me know in the comments below. And join me on Tuesday for our Tarot Talk Tuesday. We're going through the Two of Wands. Almost said swords again. Join me on Witchy Wednesday whenever I attempt to find my pendulums and show you how to, one way to unblock your chakras or to make sure they're balanced and whatnot by using a pendulum. Join me on Table Talk Thursday. We're going to pull from our Table Topics Cube. And then join me on Saturday for chapter 5? I think we're on chapter 5. And I will also be talking about the one of the exercises in the exercise in chapter 3 that I discussed then. I still have to just write everything down and in a coherent way for me to share with you guys. But yeah. And then let me know about next week. If are we doing this every last Sunday of any given month? Picking out a verse, maybe 2 verses, and we'll create or craft a spell around that verse and what it can be used for. I think that would be kind of fun. So let me know in the comments below if that's something that you want to do. I know that whenever I mentioned doing like pulling out verses for spell work and whatnot, I did get a comment on that video that, hey, this would actually be kind of fun and kind of interesting to see what we come up with. And I think I don't share that much on spell crafting, so I think that might be something that we do on the last Sunday of any given month. Just let me know in the comments below on the timing of that, or if you want another parable one. Either way is fine with me. Anyway, join me on those days, 5 days a week. Until next time, may you have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye-bye.